Hello, everybody, and welcome to our live. So, today we're going to be talking about January isn't the problem. Change the story, change the month, because January has a reputation it doesn't deserve. It tends to be surrounded by doom and gloom. No one has money, nothing happens. It's the longest month ever. Everything feels flat. But these aren't facts. They're stories we've learnt to repeat, and they end up shaping far more of our experience than the calendar ever will. So, over the next 25 minutes or so, we are going to be discussing this as well as showing you that it is not confined to January. However, before we do that, and in case this is the first time we are meeting, let us tell you who we are. So, my name is Maria Newman, and I help my clients to face the challenges in their lives so that they can get into the driver's seat and determine where they go. Karen, tell us a bit about you.
Hi, yes, I'm Karen Astill, and I am a transformational life coach, which sounds very fancy. Basically, what I do is I primarily work with midlife women to get clear on what they want the rest of their life to look like, and then get the steps to go out and create it.
It's that simple, everybody. So let's jump in to the first question that we want to approach head on. What stories am I telling myself that frees my momentum before the year even starts? So I want to go ahead and just say something really simple, which is, and I say this regularly, every situation you find yourself in is neutral until you give it meaning, because it's those thoughts that you have in your head or the words you say out loud that give a situation its meaning. And it's the meaning of those situations that determine how we feel and the emotions that might bubble up, which then influences how we show up and the actions we take, which then results in the experience we have. And to give an example of how every situation is neutral, if we were in a room now and there was a small group of us, and I was to say, right, when Karen and I have finished talking, I'm going to pick on one of you and I'm going to ask you to stand up here and talk about yourselves for 5 minutes. You might be like Annabelle. Annabelle will be thinking, hey, that's great. I can share who I am, tell people a bit more about me, what I'm about, what I like. That's a fantastic opportunity. So, as a result, she'd be feeling really happy, really enthusiastic, really motivated. She'd be sat upright on her chair. She'd be making eye contact with me because she'd like that opportunity. And as a result, I could see that she was keen and I'd offer her those 5 minutes. On the other hand, you might be like Barry. Barry would have heard those words and he would have thought, oh my goodness, that sounds awful. Why would I want to share for 5 minutes anything about me? These people are not interested in me. I couldn't think of anything worse. He'd be feeling all anxious, awkward, uncertain. He'd probably be slowly ducking down in his chair, hoping that the chair would eat him up so that he wouldn't even be considered. And obviously, as a result, I wouldn't pick him because I'm a nice person. So, every situation is neutral until you give it meaning. And just knowing that you get to decide that fact is really powerful. So instead of thinking of January in this negative way, then change your perspective and start looking at it in a way in which it serves you. What do you think, Karen?
That reminds me of a story which I was literally just telling somebody on a session this morning, which I may have misremembered. I may be misquoting this horribly, but I heard it that I think it was Tony Robbins, famous American coach, quite shouty, was talking to Bruce Springsteen. And Bruce Springsteen was about to go on stage for a big stadium gig. And Tony Robbins said to him, how would you feel? And he said, oh, I'm shaking. I've been to the loo a million times. My stomach's all upset, feel sick. And Tony Robbins said, oh, that's stage fright then. And he went, no, it's excitement. This is how I know that it's going to be a brilliant gig. So he'd taken that same set of physiological symptoms that most of us would interpret as stage fright, and he interpreted them as excitement. He just changed the meaning of it completely. And coming on to January, I mean, it starts with the biggest story of all, doesn't it? New Year's Eve. You know, New Year's Eve is this clean slate. The minute the bongs go at midnight, we've got this nothing that happened before matters, and we've got this clean start, and we can reinvent ourselves in that second. And it's just a story. I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't even stay up for the bongs anymore on New Year's Eve. But I mean, we can do that. We can change ourselves. We can change the way that we operate in the world. We can change our perceptions any time of the year. And that doesn't matter if it's the 1st of January or the 20th of June. It's just a date. It's just a story. It's just we've told ourselves that this is the time of the year that we change ourselves, that we reinvent ourselves, and that everything changes. It's just a story. It's not fact. The calendar is a man-made construct. We don't have to live by that story.
That is so true, and it's stories that, so we obviously need to become aware of these stories, because a lot of what we carry with us comes from the people that we have spent our lives listening to, admiring, being inspired by. So if in our families, for example, taking New Year's Eve as a thing that, you know, New Year's Eve was this big, amazing, momentous occasion where, you know, the next minute past midnight would signify it's going to be an all brand new year and we look forward to it, versus being in a family where, you know, it's all dread and gloom and, oh my word, it's another year. It's taking on other people's stories, regardless of what we actually think of it.
Absolutely. And I mean, I've spoken to people who say, oh, God, 2025, it can't be out of the way soon enough. I hope 2026 is going to be different. Why is it? Unless you do something different, it's not going to be different. It's just, you know, it's the lens that you're looking at things through. And nothing changes on the 1st of January unless you change it.
Exactly. And we're in control of that. It's up to us. You know, nobody's going to come and do it for us. We're actually in the position of power. We can do it, which is, you know, it's amazing.
Absolutely. But as you say, it's recognizing that we're stuck in that story, and stories, beliefs. You know, I had a coach tell me, but a belief is just a thought that you've had multiple times. That's all it is. It isn't any more than that. I mean, sometimes we inherit these beliefs and we inherit these stories, as you say, from other people. Maybe it's a family thing, maybe it's a societal thing. But we can choose to go, do you know what? Actually, I don't believe that.
It's that simple. We do have a couple of people with us. So as you're watching live, it would be great for you to just say hi so we know who you are. You don't have to. And if you have any questions, as Karen and I are talking, we would like this to be a bit more interactive. So please put in a comment, ask a question, and as they come up, we'll address them. So let's move on to the next point that we were talking about, which was, what would change if I chose a different story this month? And I want to give a really practical way of trying to do this, and knowing that you do have the control to make that different. So at the beginning, when I talked about every situation is neutral until you give it meaning, I went through a number of steps. I said, you know, it's about, first of all, it starts about how you think, the thoughts that pop into your head, which then determines how you feel and the emotions that will bubble up inside, which then has an impact on how you show up and the actions you take, which finally leads to the experience you have. And a way of getting into a good habit of changing some of those thoughts so that they're thoughts that serve you is to actually work that model backwards. So if you're about to find yourself in a situation, and typically the thoughts that are going through your head are ones that do not serve you, are negative, this is going to be awful, then work backwards and say, okay, then, so how do I want this experience to be? What is the outcome that I'm looking for? And then based on that, because we want a positive outcome, then determine, well, in order for that to happen, how do I need to show up? And what actions can I take that will enable the outcome, the desired outcome I want, happening? And then once you've noted down how you're going to show up and the actions that you're going to take, how do you need to feel about the situation? Are you going to feel happy, enthusiastic, inspired, motivated, excited? And then finally, in order for you to have those feelings, What are the thoughts that are going to be going through your head? And make them genuine ones that you can believe in. It's easy to say, oh yeah, this is going to be fantastic, it's going to be amazing, when you're not quite there yet. Make them realistic and in service of you. So say, for example, if you're going to make a sales call and you hate making sales calls, it would be easy to say, I'm going to make this sales call and the person's going to say yes, when actually inside you're thinking, well, that's a load of rubbish, isn't it? I don't believe it at all. So instead, pick a thought that you agree with. Like, I'm going to call this person, tell them how it helps them, and if they're ready, they will buy. Because that actually is believable. Karen, what do you think?
Yeah, a couple of things came up for me then. First of all, as you said, the process starts with our thoughts, and they generate our feelings. And if we've identified that we're not feeling great, maybe don't believe that thought, because that's the other thing about thoughts, is we can question them. We're allowed to question them, because not all thoughts that we have are true, believe it or not. They're just things that pop into our head, and if you leave them alone, sometimes they'll pop out again. But if you're not feeling great because there's been a thought that's come into your head that's not particularly helpful, A, don't necessarily believe that thought, and B, maybe don't take any actions from that place. Let things settle, let things go through, get yourself in a better frame of mind before you start taking action. The other thing, I love what you said about the turn it all around and do it backwards. And this is the way that I tend to talk about it, is rather than thinking about the doing first, think about the being. So if you want to be a person who owns a six-figure business, for example, six figures gets thrown around a lot in the coaching world, but who would you need to be for that to happen? And how would that person interact with the world? How would that person, I mean, you can go into ridiculous detail. How would that person dress? What would they eat for breakfast? That's a complicated way of doing it. But if you can get your head around the being, if you can get your head in that place of, I am being this person, then the doing tends to come from that. So as you say, it works backwards. The actions will come from the being. So, get creative, write down what your ideal life looks like, and then start identifying things that you can do now which fit in with that life.
And that's really easy as well, isn't it? We can all imagine who we need to be in order to live that life or be successful in that situation. And you don't need money. You just need time, imagination, and creativity. And then just start acting as though you already are that person, and just watch the world change in front of you.
Exactly. And we all have that creativity inside us. I think sometimes we talk about creativity and people think, oh, arty stuff. And, but we all have created the life that we've got at the moment, whether that be consciously or unconsciously. We've all created the life that we have, and we can create it differently if we want to. So, yes, I mean, vision boards, writing it down. And if it doesn't feel true to you, then maybe go sort of halfway. Maybe you can't, because we do get very fixed ideas about our identities. And if we can't imagine ourselves being this person with the six-figure business, or being a millionaire, or whatever it looks like, then we're not going to get there just yet. What is within, a stretch outside our comfort zone, but feels doable? So could we imagine ourselves with a 5-figure business? Could we imagine ourselves partway there? So something that feels a little bit more reachable. Because if it feels so far out of our realm of understanding that we just can't even imagine it, then we're not going to get there realistically. And we can do all the doing that we want to, but it's not going to happen.
And what I'd add to that is avoid your ego getting in the way, or even going, oh, well, Karen said, if I don't feel like I can aspire to being this person, I can just rein it in a bit. Well, you can rein it in, however, don't get yourself off the hook and start going backwards and going, I can never do that. That's just not possible. And go back to where your position is, or don't stretch yourself as actually far as you could go.
Yeah. And I think it's important to remember that growth is uncomfortable. If you're comfortable, you're not growing. Hard fact of life, it's if you want to make more of yourself, make more of your business, make more of your life, it's going to be uncomfortable. There's going to be bumps in the road. But you will look back on those as being a necessary part of it, because I think we all do that. And sometimes that's a useful way to look at things. If you're feeling really, really uncomfortable about something, a bit nervous about this, tell yourself, okay, this must be growth because it feels uncomfortable. That's good. That's a good thing. And that's a way of sort of talking yourself off the ledge a bit.
I like that. Yeah, growth is uncomfortable. If you're sat in your comfort zone, it's very comfortable, isn't it? How does life feel? Does life feel good, or does it feel a bit bland? Or so yeah, growth is uncomfortable.
And I think it was you who said, I heard you speak on something that, and you said, you know, our brains are programmed to keep us safe, and as far as our brain's concerned, upright and breathing is safe. It doesn't really, it's not really interested in anything else. So yeah, if you're trying to do anything different with your life, if you're trying to go in a different direction, your brain's going to try and put the brakes on. But it's just discomfort. It's not life-threatening.
So we're very much in January, and believe it or not, January is coming to an end. And do you know what? Despite the grey weather, which is just fact, it hasn't been too bad. However, Karen, how can individuals create energy, opportunity, and ease instead of waiting for January to end?
Well, for me, January is just another month. So like I said before, you can make changes for yourself on the 1st of January if you choose to, but you could just as soon do them on the 1st of February, 1st of March, 20th of June, whatever. The key point for me, particularly this time of year, when yes, it is dark, the days are still quite short. It's cold weather. We started January with thick snow, which was not fun. It is stop shoulding yourself. Stop comparing yourself to other people. This time of year, there's so much stuff on social media and everywhere about you should be doing this diet, you should be doing that exercise plan, you should be getting up at 5 a.m. Well, yes, you could, but should you? And if it feels like a should, if should comes into it for me, should equals don't really want to. So give yourself some space, give yourself some breathing space and some compassion that yes, you could do this if you choose to. And yes, if you want to reach a certain goal and this is one of the steps, then yes, maybe you should do that. But do it at your own pace. Do it because it feels right to you and not because somebody else says on social media, you should do this. The other thing is get really clear on what your goal is, because we get bombarded at this time of year with things like weight loss, fitness, making money, all these things that this is what you need to change this year. Well, yes, maybe, but maybe not. So get really clear on how you want to change your life, why you want to change your life, what's important about it for you. And as I say, that can look like, I'm a big writer, so I journal a lot. So for me, it'll always be a written list. I also teach workshops on vision boards. So if you're a very visual person, doing a vision board can be a really good way of getting clear on what it is that you want your life to look like. But really get specific and also talk about it. So I'm going to throw my hand up here as a coach and say, work with a coach. That would be really useful. But if not, find a trusted friend that you can talk to. Chat to ChatGPT if you want to. But get really clear. Have that sounding board if you can, so you can, because we speak these things into existence. And the number of coaching sessions I've been in for myself and with coachees, and people have said, I didn't really realize I thought that until it came out of my mouth. You know, it's a great way of getting things dislodged from the brain. The other thing for me is slow things down a bit. And I don't mean spend January on the couch finishing off the Christmas chocolates. I mean, just take a breath. January is going to come and go. So is February. So is the rest of the year. You don't have to change your life all in one go in January. And I think that's where a lot of people fall down on New Year's resolutions, because they say, I'm going to get fit and I'm going to lose weight and I'm going to change my job and I'm going to do this. And then they just get overwhelmed, quite rightly, and throw the whole thing out of the window and go, oh, no, well, it didn't work. And it's pick one thing that you're going to change and get really clear on what that one thing is, and then take the steps to do that. And that will give you the momentum to go, okay, well, what else in my life maybe isn't working? So, and listen to yourself. I think the point I'm getting across is just listen to what's true for you. Just because somebody on social media or on TV is saying this is what you should do, if it doesn't feel right for you, it doesn't feel aligned to you, then don't do it. If it's not right, it's not right. And you know that we all have this inbuilt guidance system which tells us when things are right and when they're not. So listen to it, and that sort of goes hand in hand with the slowing down, because if we're going at 1,000,000 miles an hour, we can't hear it. There's so much noise in our head, we can't hear our inner wisdom going, hang on a minute, I can't quite manage with all this, so slow things down, get really clear, listen to your body. And the other thing in terms of listening to your body is move it. So I'm not saying go out there and exercise, but sometimes we see exercise as going to the gym. It could just be a walk. Get out in fresh air, get out in nature. For me, that just shakes all sorts of stuff loose. So yeah, listen to your body and what it needs. But don't think January is not a month for going at 1,000,000 miles an hour.
And neither is any month. It's deciding to, so for me, it's all about creating healthy habits. And that's not about looking on Google and going, okay, then so what are the healthy habits I should have? Should, see the should. It goes back to what you said earlier, which is, okay, then who do I want to be? What is the person that I want to become? And then from there, excuse me, decide which habits are going to be beneficial to me in order for me to become that person. And as you've said, it is taking one at a time. It's all about being consistent. It's about taking steps that are achievable, because we know, and I don't believe in New Year's resolutions, but one of the reasons why New Year's resolutions fail is because as soon as somebody gets it wrong, they go, oh, well, I've got it wrong then. That's it. I give up. No. I mean, you see children learning to walk. If we all gave up walking, trying to walk, when we fell over the first time, we wouldn't be walking as adults. So it is about, okay, then be kind to yourself, be consistent, keep going, and then the life you want to lead, the way you want to see life will happen.
Yeah. So, and it's about being realistic as well. So what fits in with your life as it is at the moment? Because yes, you might want to change your life, but you've got to work with the life you've got to a degree at the moment. So if you want to be a member of the 5 a.m. club, good luck to you. I'm not intending to join. But if getting up at 5 a.m. fits with your life, if you're awake, if you're an early riser anyway, if you're awake anyway, or if that's the quiet time before everybody else gets up, then great, go for that. If you know that your energies don't work like that, you just like mornings aren't great for you. And again, this is listening to your body. What works for you? I know that I need 8 hours sleep, otherwise I'm a nightmare. So it's a case of I'm not going to get up at 5 a.m. because I don't want to go to bed at 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening. So it's about being realistic to a degree, but also you've got to sort of put the work in. I remember coaching someone it was part of my training actually. I was talking to this lady who was just about to start a new diet and exercise plan, and she tried a few in the past and it hadn't worked. And she said, but I've got this diet and exercise plan and it's been tailored for me and it's great and I'm going to start it. And I said, oh, brilliant. How do you feel about it? Expecting her to say energized or focused or really, sure that she was going to do it, really confident. The word she came out with was hopeful. I thought, hopeful, you sort of, I've got it all in place. Now I'm just going to throw it out there and hope that it works. I said, I don't really fancy your chances on that if the overriding feeling you've got from this is hope. If you've done it before and it hasn't worked. So again, it's about being realistic, because you can't just put the steps in place and then expect everything to work. You've got to be able to stick with it, and it's got to fit with your life in order for you to be able to do that.
And what I would add to that is you've also got to know your why, just to emphasize Simon Sinek, it doesn't have to be about work. What is the reason that you are making that change? I worked with a lady who she wanted to lose weight, and clearly I am not a weight loss expert. And we dug into, what is the reason behind you wanting to lose weight? And for her, it was all about being able to run around with her boys who were at the time really young. And as we know, if you're a parent, especially boys, they have bags of energy. And if you want to keep up, you need to do something to keep up. So keeping up with them and having fun with them and enjoying spending time with her boys was her why. And as a result, you know, she actually put in a review for me that 60 minutes with me accomplished more than actually working with a weight loss coach, because we dug deep. It wasn't about weight loss.
And that's what it's that's why I said get really clear on what it is that your goals are. And as you say, the why is so important, because whenever you try and change habits, whenever you try and change something about your life, because we said growth is it's going to be uncomfortable. There are going to be tricky points. There are going to be bits where you want to give up, and having that why fixed in your brain can make you it makes you reflect on why it is I'm doing this. Why am I putting myself through this? Because if you are getting up at 5 o'clock on a dark morning to go out and exercise, because that's the only time that you can do it, you're going to need a fairly strong why to keep that happening. And if the why is, as you say, you know, I want to be able to run around with my kids, or I want to live longer, or whatever, that's going to keep you going far longer than because I want to be able to put a photo of myself on Facebook.
Yeah, exactly. So we are coming close to the end of our 30-minute live. Karen, how would you like individuals to stay connected with you in life?
So I am on LinkedIn. I am also on Facebook, just under my name. You can also, and this is what I'd really love people to do, is go onto my website and sign up on the contacts page to receive my monthly newsletter, because that's where I talk about what's been going on for me in the month, some little hints and tips for the time of year. It's quite seasonal. And if I've got any workshops or programs coming up, that's the first place that I advertise them. So if you want to stay in touch, I don't really put anything out more than once a month. So I won't bombard you with spam, I promise. It's just a monthly email, just keeping you in touch. And if you want to talk about anything at all, please do get in touch. I'm always happy to have a conversation. I'm not going to have a conversation and then charge you for it. If you want to work with me, give me a shout and we'll have a talk about whether that's the right thing for you at the moment.
And for me, it's really quite simple. If you want to stay in contact, then please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I also offer tips about how can you view life differently so that you can make it the life that you want to lead. And we'll put in our links into the comments of this live so that you don't have to go looking for them. You can just click the link and as if by magic, you'll be taken to where you need to go. So on that note, do you have any final notes that you want to say, Karen?
I'm just going to go back to the fact that, you know, we are all creative beings. We're creating our lives every day. So don't think that you're not creative. Don't think that you can't create a new life for yourself, because you can. But you need to take action on that. Sitting around and hoping that 2026 will be different is not going to get you any further than 2025 did. So don't put pressure on yourself. But if you do want to make changes, then speak to somebody who can help you with that.
I totally agree. Make 2026 the year that you want it to be. It's in your hands. You have the power to change things one step at a time. So that just leaves me to say thank you, everybody, for watching us. I hope this has been of value to you, and we shall see you again. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Maria, for hosting. Nice to talk to you again.